Hello, good afternoon. Today I'm with Fiona McLeod from PEPA Aged Care, and I'd like to say hello to Fiona. So introduce yourself, Fiona. Let me know what you do in PEPA Aged Care and what that looks like.
Hi, thanks for having me, Sam. I currently work for PEPA Aged Care, which is part of the national PEPA program. We've been an additional part of PEPA for the last 4 years, I think now, and it's run through QUT, funded by the Commonwealth Government, and they offer placements, workshops, um, different sorts of placements actually. But PEPA Aged Care focuses on what we call reverse PEPA placements. So an educator, comes out to a site for up to 4 days and offers some palliative care education to aged care providers. And they don't have to be residential aged care, they can be home care as well. Doesn't have to be consecutive days, and there's a little bit of funding available to support. So that's what I've done. But I've worked in palliative care, I reckon, for over 30 years.
That's a long time, Fiona.
It is a long time. Yeah.
But it's such a wealth of knowledge to bring to these reverse PEPA
Yeah,
placements, isn't it?
it is.
And
Yeah.
the variety of people that you speak to when you're doing the paper placements too. It's not just nurses, is it? It's
No, it's a whole of workforce. And so even though I've been working in palliative care for a long time, most of my nursing career, you still learn from the participants in the room and their lived experience and their culture. And I've learnt so much just working with the participants. And that's the part that I enjoy so much, when they share with me about their cultural experience of death and dying in another country or something like that, and how different it is. So that's what I really enjoy.
I love it. If you haven't had a reverse PEPA placement, guys, it's absolutely a sign for you to sign up and get one in your facility. I want to quiz Fiona about some communication challenges now, because she has a lot of info on it and a lot of experience from chatting with people about it. So I want to know from you, Fiona, what some common challenges to communication that you've seen in your line of work.
I think emotion, those emotions that get not in the way, but they're there, either from yourself or from the people you're trying to communicate with.
Yeah.
And then sometimes that can build into you don't want to upset people, you don't want to harm them, and so then we can become fearful that we're going to say the wrong thing. And what I hear from participants everywhere I go, and we do PEPA placements all over Australia, it's the same thing comes up on the whiteboard at the beginning of each placement. What do you struggle with? Communication. And a lot of it is they want to communicate so well and put so much pressure on themselves that they're worried they're going to say the wrong thing, and then they're not really there for them. So it can be, it's a really difficult area. So I think emotions and trying to communicate professionally and honestly, but still show empathy.
Yes.
So that's the challenge. You have to tell someone, that their loved person, their mum, their dad, their sister, brother is dying. And you want to show empathy in that, but you also want to show honesty and truth and openness and not false hope.
It's quite a difficult thing to do, isn't it?
Not easy. No, it's not.
I think we think that communicating and talking is supposed to be something we're naturally so good at. But talking about death and dying and communicating with people who maybe have never experienced something like this before and helping them navigate it, is a skill. And one that you can, thankfully one you can learn by going to education classes, having placements and exposing yourself to good communication techniques, sometimes, and even bad ones, which is probably a fairly good segue to my second question about communication. It's tempting to think that sometimes experts in palliative care never make mistakes around communicating. Have you learned any significant lessons in the past from getting it wrong? I'm going to put that in like air
Yeah.
quote fingers, because it's not wrong if we've learned from it. But yeah, is there any significant lessons?
Oh, look, firstly, I think that experts only become experts by learning from their mistakes. And
Yeah,
if they don't learn from their mistakes, they won't be able to move to that level of expertise. So experts make mistakes too. And if you stop learning, then I think um, there's humility in there that we can always learn something new. We can always do something different. I think we have to be humble and forgive ourselves when we get it slightly wrong. Or I've even said to people that I'm talking to, I said, oh, I could have said that better. I'm really sorry. And I think that's the humility that comes into it too. Or I should have said, I actually apologize a little bit if I think I've got it wrong. Because each person you communicate with, we're not all, the same. There could be language difficulties, there could be cultural differences, lots of slang or jargon comes into it. And so we need to be clear. So, what have I learned from my mistakes? Just keep trying, keep at it again and be humble, I think, and just
yeah,
admit you get it wrong. So, I could have had a really good conversation with one family that I'm with, and then I go to another family, try the same technique, and
and
it doesn't go
the
well.
result isn't the same.
No, you think,
Yes,
oh, so it's not one size fits all, which is good in a way.
yeah,
Um, but I think it's to keep trying and learning from mistakes
mm,
and having a little set of um, not phrases, well, sort of phrases that you might use, but thinking that not one phrase is going to fit. I might need another one. So,
yeah,
and I think the other thing is don't be afraid of silence. I think there's a
yes,
lot of power in silence, and silence in itself, I think, is a communication tool.
yes,
So, within that, you've got the non-verbal communication that you're doing. So, you're sitting with them and you're staying with them in
yeah,
that space. So, when people say, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing, I said, don't worry about it. Often, if you're willing just to sit with them and stay
yeah.
in the silence, silence in itself is communication and maybe more powerful than words.
It's such a strong tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've often said when I've explained lessons that I've learned around communication that whenever I walk away from an interaction with somebody, I always like to just have a little bit of a reflection on how it
Mm,
went. And if I've ever going to come away from a conversation going, oh gosh, that just didn't go quite the way I wanted it to
yeah.
go, more often than not for me, or at least in the past, I like to hope I'm a lot better now. It's because I haven't identified the silence for the tool it is, and I've
Yeah.
attempted to fill it.
Yeah.
And no sentence that I ever used to fill a silence has ever been a
Replace
helpful
silence.
sentence.
No,
Yeah, and it's never
no,
been as good as the silence on its own would have
no.
been. So I absolutely 100% agree with you on the
Yeah.
tool of silence, and that's probably half answered the next question I had for you. But we do sometimes carry tools with us regarding communications
Mm.
with patients and clients and their families. Do you have any other tools in your toolkit that you like to share with people?
So we in PEPA, we actually teach that prepared framework. Um, if any of the letters you remember, just remember the P for prepared.
Yeah.
That's the bit that I think you can get into trouble sometimes if you start a conversation and it's at a bad timing for yourself, or you haven't prepared, or you don't know things that they ask you, and you won't know the answers to everything. I think that's okay to acknowledge that I don't know, and I'll go and find out. But I often think about in aged care, if I try to see where they're having conversations, and a family member might come up to you in the middle of a drug round, and you've got the trolley, and you've got all these pills to give out. So you're stressed about doing that. And I think I read this from Catherine Mannix, actually, who does a lot around communication. And she said, saying that this is a really important conversation. I want to give it the time that it needs. So, can I meet with you in 10 or 15 minutes in a space that she might say back in, your wherever the space is she decides to meet.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
deferring so that she can prepare herself and you're not thinking
yes,
about the 50 pills and peoples that
yes.
you need to get out. So I think that's an important thing
That's a fabulous
Yeah,
thing to have in your toolkit.
yeah,
Acknowledging that it is a very important thing, that you're not trying to put somebody off, but you're just wanting
no,
to give the space and security and safety that it needs to do the conversation
yeah,
justice. I
yeah.
think I
And even
might
if you're
get
picking
that
up
too.
the phone to have a conversation, I haven't got shares in her book, but I'd recommend you read it. It's called Listen. But she talks about this conversation where we often are already on one side of the bridge, like the person's deteriorating, they're dying, and the family member's over the other side of the bridge. And
Mm,
so checking in with them, can I talk about your mother? You're inviting them into the conversation, you're inviting them
yeah,
onto the bridge.
yeah,
And then, asking them about how they think she's going, and what have they noticed and things like that. So you're slowly bringing them across to your side rather than opening up with mum's deteriorating and she's approaching end
yes.
of life and we've got to start planning for this. And they're on the other side of the bridge going, what?
Just going, what's going
Where's
on?
my raft? Like,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So
That's
I
so
think it's a great analogy. It really, it might have been her that actually, yeah, talked about. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
excellent. Hey,
yeah,
should I find the book? I'll pop it in the show notes for the video.
yeah, yeah.
And people can
It's
have a
actually
little
on
look.
an audio. You can get it on an audio book too.
Oh, that's great too. So
Yeah,
you can listen to it on your way into work and stuff or walking the dog,
absolutely.
which is always quite nice. And she's got
Yeah,
such a
she gives
soothing voice.
lots of little. Oh, she does.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice on an audio book. She's got lots of scenarios and different ways of interacting and communicating in different scenarios. So yeah, I've
I
enjoyed
think
reading it.
I will go away from this conversation and download that audiobook, Fiona.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
My final question for you is there one thing that you wish people knew about communication? You're allowed
Oh,
more than one.
I, 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 I suppose it almost reiterates one things I've said before, that you might need several approaches in your
Mm,
kit bag, that not one size fits all. Um, that being aware of what people need in that space and making them feel safe, I think is important, whether that's cultural or having someone with them if they want. Um, and the more you practice and be brave, the better you'll get at it. So, and come along, find someone you think does it well, and
yeah.
sit with them. Yeah, use them as a mentor. And like you said, with reflection, have someone that you can bounce it off. Oh, I had this conversation. I don't think it went well. And often you don't think it went well and it actually went better than you thought. So it's
Yeah.
sort of your own self-reflection. You have to be careful that you're not too harsh on yourself. But I think that's because you want to get it right. You want to do it well. So there's that passion and enthusiasm to do it well, that you don't want it to be a barrier for you.
Yes,
So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I think those are wonderful take-home messages. And just
Okay.
that and
Yeah.
that grace that you said to give
Yeah.
yourself at the beginning of our chat too. Because like you say, is this you the reason you're giving yourself potentially giving yourself a hard time over this is because you
Mm.
know how important it is. And that in
Yeah.
itself is something to be celebrated because we don't
Yeah, I think
all
so. I think
acknowledge
no,
that it's
I think
important.
it's about, the values of palliative care really, and part of
Yeah.
that we talk about dignity and respect, but there's humility and empathy, um,
Mm,
and yeah, grace. I think that's a nice word. I like
I
that.
like that word
Forgive
too.
yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's a wonderful thing for us to end on. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for your time,
that's all right,
Fiona.
Sam. No
I will
worries.
put in the show notes Catherine Mannix's book. I'm also going to put the Pepper Aged Care webpage with the how you can apply.
Yep.
So don't be shy. Even if you're not sure, there's a form you can fill in so you can have a chat with someone and they can
We've
talk to
also
you about.
got a brochure that you might be
Yes.
need to link in there, and they've made the application form a lot easier, and it's a
Yes.
Microsoft form now. So only I did it, practice, and made up all these things in it, and so that took me longer. So it was less than 5 minutes. So
Great.
it was
So what have you
very
got to
easy.
lose, really?
Yeah, that's it.
Um, Thank you so much.
That's all right.